Hi everyone, Bear from Bear Reads Books. Welcome back to my channel. Great to see you again. Back in my garden for just a weekly update. I thought it had been a slow reading week, but then when I mapped out all the stuff that's happened and all the things that I've done, I thought, okay, that seems like a pretty busy week. So let's jump straight to it. BookTube prize reading this week has gone ahead apace. So I think last week I had finished Parkland, or just about to, so I've finished Parkland. And this week I've also finished Robert Macfarlane's Underland, which tells the story of all of the wonderful things underneath the ground. So in the deep ice underneath the Arctic and underneath the ground with trees talking to each other. So that was the second BookTube prize book I've finished. I can't tell you anything about it apart from that little synopsis. And this week I've picked up a third, which is Emily Bazelon's Charged, which tells the story of mass incarceration in the United States, and specifically following the story of two young men and their journey through the criminal justice system in different states of the United States. And so this will be my third, and I think this week sometime as well I'll try and juggle two at a time. I've got until the end of May to finish the 6 books, and with 2 under my belt and a third one already started, I'm feeling pretty comfortable about my BookTube prize reading. So that's okay. What I did do this week is I DNF'd one. I have bailed on a book, and if you know me, if you've watched any of my videos, you'd realise I do not give up on books very often. Maybe 2 a year, maybe 3 a year. I'm more likely, if a book is terrible, I am more likely to stick it out to like watch the train wreck happen. That's my thinking. You know, if a book is so bad, I'm more than likely just to keep reading just for the lols, really. But the one I gave up on was actually a Stellar Prize listed book. It was the book of short stories that I started ages ago by Josephine Rowe, called Here Until August. And I guess over the last 6 to 8 weeks I've progressed very slowly with it. I got about halfway, and every time I went back to it, I tried to remember some of the stories that had come before, and every time I did that I had no idea. I couldn't recall the fine detail of any of the stories that I'd already read, and I felt that I had been concentrating, and so I think this was a failing of the book. So I'm not just setting it aside because I'm busy, I am DNFing it, as in it didn't engage me enough for me to even remember the stories. I've read other short story collections and that I've read and then gone away from and come back to, and I've always come back to them because I've remembered the stories fondly, and I can't say this happened with Josephine Rowe's Here Until August. I won't tell you anything about it. It had a central theme about that time of year, here until August. So, but in Australia that's kind of late winter, and in the Northern Hemisphere that's late summer. But that was it for the theme. It was just that kind of year, and some of the stories were set in Australia, so there's this gloomy, wintry feel, and then some of the stories are set in the United States, so there's this summery feel. Okay, so what's the point of having a theme about August if you're not even going to place it in one part of the world? Ah, well, see you, Josephine, you're out, gone. So, Josephine Rowe, Here Until August. I know it was a Stellar Prize nominated book, didn't win, but it just didn't grab me. It just couldn't keep me interested. Anyway, probably the second or third DNF you're going to see this year. I very, very rarely do them. What else? So, what I also had, I've had this on my reading shelf, like currently reading shelf, for a couple of weeks now, and I've barely progressed. It's Mullumbimby. It might be a bit hard to see. Mullumbimby by Melissa Lukashenko, which she's got a newer one called Too Much Lip. It's meant to be great. Lots of people on BookTube have read it and loved it. And it didn't grab me right away. Like, I'm 40 or so pages in, and it just didn't excite me. So I'm not DNFing it, but I am just gonna juggle a bit and then pick up another book sideways to this that I can plough through really quickly, something to pique my interest, and then tick along with this in the background. So this will be my kind of background book. Hopefully it starts to engage me a little bit better. The one that I decided to pick up sideways to this in the hope of really getting me engaged is The Nowhere Child by Christian White, which is a really easy to read Australian and American thriller, mystery sort of thing. And it is great. It's really good. Who took Sammy Went? Sammy went missing in the 1990s at some point from the United States, and then there's a woman in Melbourne and a man approaches her on the street one day and says, "You're this person, you're Sammy Went that everyone thought was dead or everyone thought was kidnapped. I've tracked you down, you're Sammy Went." And then fun and frivolity ensues, and we work out why this girl who was kidnapped from the United States 30 years ago is suddenly reappearing in Melbourne with no knowledge of ever being a child in the United States. So intriguing, really easy to read. It is very, very digestible mystery and thriller, but engaging and fun, as much as child kidnapping can be fun. But it's not meant to be overly taxing on the mind, and I thought, why not? And it's been sitting on my shelves for so long. So there we go. The Nowhere Child, and I've ripped through this a couple of days, and I am more than halfway through, just reading on the side, and should be good. The reason why I picked this is because the second one has come out, like the second Christian White book has come out probably a couple of months ago now, and I haven't read that either. So I can't read the second one until I've read the first one. So I don't even know whether they carry on from each other. So Christian White, The Nowhere Child, it's pretty good. I'm guessing any of my Australian BookTube friends has probably read this already. It seriously did very, very well. What else am I reading? I think audiobook wise, I have picked up, and I'm going to have to grab this on my phone. This I'm still not sure about, considering it's a really short book. I'm just struggling a little bit. It is called Kim Ji-young, born 1982. Kim Ji-young, born 1982. That's the title of the book, by an author called Cho Nam-ju, and it's a Korean book. And if any of the reviews are anything to go by, it's been a sensation in Korea, in South Korea. It's taken that country by storm, and in what it has to say about modern Korea and growing up as a woman in Korea. But it is a really small book. This is on audiobook. It goes for less than, or about 3 hours, so it's a really small little book. I'm struggling to see the point. I'm probably halfway through, and I'm struggling as a Westerner to see why all the hype about this book. Maybe there's more to it that I haven't quite got to yet. I'm sticking with it because it's 3 hours of my life. It's not like a huge investment, but I'm reading that in audiobook right now. Kim Ji-young, born 1982. Strange title for a book, by Cho Nam-ju. If you've read this one, I would appreciate your thoughts. It's an interesting at the moment is probably the best I can say about it. Very third person style, so talking in the third person, so it's considered it's translated fiction, and then the narrator is in third person. It is really hard to get to know the characters because it is a very short book and they're kind of racing through stuff. The life of this girl in chapters, you kind of jump from when she's a small girl to a school girl to an older girl, so considering the timeline and the third person narrator, it's really hard to kind of fall in love with these people and these characters in this story. So we'll see how we go. What else have I done this week? I did say I'd have been busy. I bought some books as well. There was a book There's an Australian book I wanted to buy called Flight Lines by Andrew Darby. It's about the migratory patterns of seabirds across the globe on a journey with the astonishing ultra-marathon birds. Non-fiction, of course. And Andrew Darby made the news because at the time he was researching and writing this book, he had a cancer diagnosis, and he had all this battle with cancer, which he's since encapsulated in this book as well, about his battle. So it's more so about the birds, obviously, the migratory patterns of the birds, but also along with the struggle of these ultramarathon birds going around the globe and back again, is his struggle with cancer. So I think he's decided to write that into the story, but also he meets people along the way. So very much in the style of the Robert Macfarlane, who's talking about pretty much dirt and ice and rock. But the interesting bit is the story he tells about the people he meets in getting in adventures going underground, similar to Andrew Darby, who meets people along the way in tracing these migratory patterns of these ocean birds, migratory birds. And the people he meets along the way are super interesting and gets into all sorts of adventures. So Flight Lines by Andrew Darby. While I was at the bookshop, and we are lucky enough to still have open bookshops, while I was at the bookshop, I bought 2 more because I have zero ability to restrain myself. I bought, this has been out for quite a few years now, Stasiland by Anna Funder, which talks about, it is an Australian classic on tyranny and resistance, but it is about the East German intelligence community during the Cold War, before the Berlin Wall came down. Meant to be pretty good. It is a classic of non-fiction reportage, I guess you would call it, Stasiland by Anna Funder. And I also bought William Dalrymple, The Anarchy, The Relentless Rise of the East India Company, which interests me immensely, and I was hoping I would get to it as part of my non-fiction reads for the BookTube Prize, but it got knocked out in the octafinals. Go figure. It's a lump of a book. It'll be a slow burn while I do other stuff, but a super interesting topic, and a topic I knew a little bit about, but not much, and I'm very keen to know a lot more. So they were so powerful. They were almost not just a corporation, but a civilization all by itself that defeated the Indians. Fascinating. The Anarchy, The Relentless Rise of the East India Company. So, what a busy week. A super busy week. I'm really happy with what I've been able to achieve. I'm really happy that I came to the decision to DNF a book. That's great. I never do that. Hopefully your week has gone productively and well and healthily. That's it from me. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, wherever you may be. And I will talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.